Everyone talks about the rules of the 1970s, but nobody ever asks where those rules came from. I was born in 1959, and I remember every single one of these like it was yesterday. The boomers didn't make these rules up, they got them from their parents first. And if your childhood experience was anything like mine, you'll remember these too. 15. Don't stretch the cord. We had one phone in the house, attached to the wall with a cord that reached maybe 3 feet and no further. That 3 was the boundary and the only privacy you got for your entire conversation. When the phone rang, you answered it right there, and you stood in one spot, and you talked, and you did not move until the call was over. And if you were a teenager who stretched that cord trying to get a little privacy, your mother's voice arrived from somewhere in the house before you had stretched it more than an inch. Don't stretch the cord. Nobody ever explained what would happen if you stretched it too far. Nobody needed to. The tone was enough, and you let the cord go slack and finished your conversation standing exactly where you started. You stood at that wall, in that kitchen, where everyone could see you, and you talked. 14. Turn off the lights when you leave the room. This was not a suggestion. This was your father's personal mission in life, pursued with the dedication of someone who had seen the electric bill and taken it personally. You got up from the couch, walked out of the room, left the light on, and from somewhere in the house, sometimes from another floor entirely, your father knew. He always knew. Turn off the lights when you leave the room. I am not paying to light an empty room. Nobody ever calculated how much money a single light bulb cost per hour, but your father had already done the math, and the answer was always the same: too much. You learned to turn off every light behind you before you were 10 years old. Today, children leave every light in the house blazing, and nobody says a word. In the 1950s, an empty lit room was a personal offense, and your father took it as one. And if you were honest, you still turn off the lights when you leave the room. Every time. 13. The only TV in the house was in the living room. Every one of us knew this meant if your father was watching the news, you were watching the news. And if your mother had her program on, you sat quietly on the couch and you waited your turn because the TV did not belong to you. It belonged to the house. And the house had rules about who watched what and when. You did not have a remote control. You got up and changed the channel by hand through 3 channels, sometimes 4 if the antenna was aimed just right. And on Saturday morning, for a few precious hours, it was yours. You sat 3 feet from the screen in your pajamas, eating cereal that turned the milk pink, and you did not move until your mother called you for breakfast. Today, every child disappears into their own screen in their own room, and the family sits in separate silence. In the 1950s, you watched together, or you did not watch at all, and the living room was the center of everything, and the television was the only one there was. 12. If you're cold, put another layer on. You were cold. You walked toward the thermostat, and your father appeared from nowhere and said, "Don't touch that. If you're cold, put another layer on." Oh, you put on a sweater, then another sweater. You sat on the couch wrapped in a blanket like a small, unhappy burrito, still cold, with nothing to be done about it. Today, children adjust the thermostat like it is their personal right, and nobody thinks anything of it. In the 1950s, that dial was set, and it was staying set. And the only warmth available to you was whatever you could find in the linen closet. Nobody carried a backpack. Nobody owned one, and frankly, the concept did not exist in any school in the country back then. Every morning, you went to your locker, pulled out whatever books the day needed, tucked them under your arm with your folder in the other hand, and walked to class like every other kid in the building. The books got to class, you got where you were going. Today, children carry backpacks so heavy they lean forward when they walk, and schools send home guidelines about how to pack them properly. In the 1950s, you put 3 books under your arm. Now, stop for a second before we keep going. Not one of these rules came from a book. Not one of them was discussioned in a Facebook group, published in a guide, or recommended by anyone with a degree in anything. They were passed from parents to children, who mostly watched them, and the occasional look that said more than any sentence could. Because what the 1970s called parenting, the 1950s invented them. The boomers did not make these rules up. They received them, worn in, tested, handed down like furniture that had been in the family so long, nobody remembered who bought it first. The next rules on this list are the same: older than you think, tougher than they sound, and every single one of them is still living somewhere in the back of your memory. We ate mostly at mealtime. Nobody snacked all day. We ate at mealtime. Breakfast, lunch, dinner. And that was it. Those were the times you ate. Everything in between was just waiting. There was no pantry to raid whenever you felt like it. No drawer full of snacks. No standing in front of an open refrigerator at 3 in the afternoon deciding what you wanted. You ate when the family ate. Period. If you wandered into the kitchen and reached for that heavy refrigerator handle, your mother's voice always arrived before your hand did. You aren't hungry. We eat in an hour. Close that door. And you closed it. Because back then, hunger between meals wasn't a problem to be solved. It was just something you lived with until dinner. Today, children graze from the moment they wake up. The idea of waiting for a meal sounds like a punishment. But in the 50s, waiting was just part of the day. And believe me, the food tasted a lot better for it. 9. Going to McDonald's was a rare treat. Not a Tuesday. The golden arches appeared through the car window just like that, and something happened in your chest that only happened on Christmas morning. This made you ask if you could stop, but your mother replied, "We have food at home." Those 5 words ended the conversation and the dream at exactly the same time. Going to McDonald's was not a casual Tuesday solution. It was an event, planned, anticipated, genuinely celebrated, that happened maybe once a month if you were lucky, and twice if something very good had happened and your parents were feeling generous. You did not take it for granted, because you could not take it for granted, because the next time was never guaranteed, and you knew it. Today, families stop at a drive-thru 3 times a week without a second thought. In the 1950s, that burger tasted like the best thing you had ever eaten, because it was rare. And rare things always taste better. In or out. Next time you come in, you're staying in. The screen door never stopped moving. One minute you're inside the house, the next you're running outside. After a while you came in to tell your mother something or get a glass of water and went back out again. But at some point in the afternoon, your father reached the end of his patience, and he goes in or out. Next time you come through that door, you are staying in. And you knew he meant it, because the screen door had been slamming all day, and the outside air had been getting into the house all day, and you had been treating the home like a revolving door since 7 in the morning. So you made a decision, and chose out. And you stayed out until the street lights came on, because going back in meant the day was over, and there was still too much day left to waste it inside. 7. We didn't sit around all day. We went out, ran around, and figured things out on our own. There was no sitting around, not because anyone organized your afternoon or scheduled your activities, but because the house was not designed for children to be in it all day, and your mother had things to do that your presence made harder. So you went outside, and outside there was everything you needed, like the other kids, a street, a yard, and your own imagination, which turned out to be enough to fill every single afternoon without any help from any adult anywhere. We ran, played, invented games out of nothing, played them until you forgot the rules, made up new ones, and kept going until the streetlights came on and the day was done. Nobody organized it, nobody supervised it, nobody scheduled it. You just went outside and figured it out. Today, children need activities and schedules and organized entertainment to fill an afternoon. In the 1950s, you needed a yard and a friend, and you were set until dinner. 6. Walk it off and go back outside. Scraped knees were just part of the price of admission.
Maybe you took a spill on the concrete and came inside with a bit of blood on your leg, mostly because coming inside seemed like the right thing to do. Your mother would look at the scrape, then she'd look at you and go, rub some dirt in it, walk it off, go back outside. Down the street was Miss Mabel, and her version was, unless you're bleeding to death, stay outside. As bizarre as that sounds today, we knew the difference between pain and damage. Pain is temporary, damage is serious. A scraped knee was just pain. It didn't require a doctor, an incident report, or a phone call to anyone. You'd wash it off, grab a Band-Aid from the kitchen drawer, and head right back out. Because the game was still going, and you weren't about to miss it over a scrape. We grew up knowing exactly what our bodies could handle.
5. If your friends jumped in a lake, would you jump too? But Mom, everyone else is doing it. Back then, we'd use our friends' behavior as clear evidence that an idea was reasonable. It was our favorite defense. But your mother? She wasn't impressed. She'd look you right in the eye and drop the hammer. If your friends jumped in a lake, would you jump too? Nobody ever had an answer for that. Because the question wasn't really a question. It was a lesson, delivered in a single sentence, about something that takes most people years to learn. The lesson was simple. Other people's choices are not your permission. What everyone else is doing is never a reason. You think for yourself, or you don't think at all. Your name is on your decisions, regardless of whose idea it was. Today, kids are often taught to fit in and go along with the group, and then we wonder why they find it so hard to say no. In the 50s, that one question settled the matter for good. No answer needed. Lesson learned.
4. Don't lie to me. The lie doubled the punishment. Was there a time you did something wrong, Mother asked you about it, and you looked her in the eye and lied? That was your second mistake, and it was far worse than the first. In that house, and frankly in every house on the block, there was one rule that sat above all others. It had no exceptions, no leniency. Don't lie to me. The original offense had a punishment. It was known, expected, proportionate. But the lie doubled it. Every single time, no matter how sorry you were afterward, the lie had already happened. It carried a consequence that ran parallel to everything else. Your mother wasn't a lie detector. She was something much more accurate. She was a mother, and mothers always knew. You learn very quickly that the truth, no matter how bad it was, always had a ceiling. But a lie had no ceiling at all. 3. Stop crying or I will give you something to cry about. If we ever dared to cry because something had not gone our way, or you were frustrated or tired or simply in the mood, and the tears had arrived without any particular invitation, Mother looked at you with an expression that had no sympathy whatsoever. And next she'll say, "Stop crying or I will give you something to cry about." That sentence stopped every tear immediately, not because it was comforting, but because it was clarifying. It drew a hard line between real pain and performed pain, between genuine distress and a bid for attention. And on the other side of that line was something you had no interest in discovering. So you stopped. You took a breath, you collected yourself, and moved on. Today, emotional expression is encouraged and validated and processed out loud with everyone in the room paying attention. In the 1950s, 7 words handled the whole situation. 2. If you curse, I will wash your mouth out with soap. You said a word you should not have said. Maybe you heard it from an older kid. Maybe you thought nobody was listening. Maybe you forgot for just 1 second where you were and who was standing nearby. Your mother heard it. She always heard it. And she looked at you with an expression that was not quite anger and not quite disappointment, but something that combined both into something considerably worse than either one alone. If you ever say that word in this house again, I will wash your mouth out with soap. This was not a metaphor. The soap was real. The threat was real. And every child in that era knew at least one kid it had actually happened to.
which meant the story had traveled through the neighborhood as a warning and landed exactly where it was supposed to. You did not say that word again. Not in that house, not anywhere near that house, not within a 3-block radius of that house. Because some threats you test once, and some threats you never test at all. And by that age, you already knew which kind this was.
This is going to hurt me more than it will hurt you. The trouble you were in had been building all day. That heavy feeling that there was nowhere left to run. Maybe it was your mother sitting you down, or your father in the doorway. But before the consequence arrived, they always said it. This is going to hurt me more than it will hurt you. As a kid, you didn't believe them. You thought it was just a line, a script parents read before they did what they had to do. But they meant it. Discipline wasn't something they enjoyed. They did it because raising a child who knew right from wrong was more important than being liked. They weren't trying to break you. They were trying to build you. They wanted you to know that actions have consequences, that love and discipline aren't opposites. They're two faces of the same thing. That wasn't cruelty. That was the most serious kind of love there is. For many of you, those parents are gone now, and you'd give anything to hear that voice one more time. Even that voice. Especially that one. Through all the mischief, the rules, and the consequences, I felt loved. I felt like part of a family. I didn't realize it then, but my parents were teaching me how to stand on my feet. They taught me how to be courteous, how to apologize, and how to carry myself through a world that doesn't make exceptions. And those lessons became a part of who we are, guiding you every single day. If you grew up in that era, you know exactly what I mean. Our childhoods weren't perfect, but they were a gift. And the fact that you still remember every one of these rules is the proof. That wisdom is still right there, tucked away in the back of your mind. If your mother or father had a favorite rule or a specific phrase they always used, share them, please. Use their exact words if you remember. And stay tuned, because part 2 is coming. We have 10 more rules where these came from.